Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today we have a video for you talking about 8 particular great magic armies. Now, each of these armies can be great at magic in very different ways. They can have access to really powerful casters in their own right, or they could have the ability to get lots of bonuses to cast, meaning they get lots of ways they can add +1, +2, or even potential dispel powers and unbind powers that help them deflect opponents' magic on top of being able to be offensively good as well. Or the fact that they get loads of cheap wizards which enable them to have a quantity over quality look at magic, meaning they get lots of wizards who are going to put out low quality spells, but there's going to be a lot of those spells thrown out that makes them a good magic army because of that. So today, let's get talking about these great magic armies, and this video is going to be 8 great magic armies. Number 1, where would we be without talking about the god of magic and change, and that is the army Disciples of Tzeentch. These are worshippers of the most magical influence chaos god, and thus we have a lot of wizards within the faction. Even a lot of your battle line options like Horrors of Tzeentch and Karak Acolytes have access to being wizards, though in some reduced capacity, mainly the fact they can only cast their War Scroll spells, so they can cast that multiple times across the army. But you also have access to a wide range of different wizards and different levels of wizard. You have more powerful casters in the Lords of Change, you have very mid-range sort of casting heroes like the Curseling, and you also have very cheap wizards as well, like I've mentioned already, your battle line options, and even just cheaper wizards like, say, just a Chaos Sorcerer Lord on foot. What's great about Tzeentch is they can also draw in, as I've mentioned, to the Slave to Darkness aspect. Anything that can take a mark of Tzeentch from any of those gains the Tzeentch keyword and thus can be taken into Disciples of Tzeentch army. This means things like Daemon Princes and all that can come over into your Tzeentch faction as well and just boost up your magic casting potential. One thing to note with Tzeentch, unlike a lot of the other armies, is that their magic is very heavily dominated and poised towards being offensive. They have a lot of mortal wound output from their magic, and they don't have quite as many buffs and debuffs as a lot of other armies. Though they are still existent, they're just definitely not the focus of Tzeentch magic. Tzeentch magic is aimed at doing the damage for the army. What this means is the army really heavily pushes towards this and gives you a lot of magical potential, and you're going to need lines of chaff and particular Horrors and Karak Acolytes to throw in the way of your enemies to allow your casters to do the damage the army needs to be doing. Number 2, we have the Lumineth Realm-Lords, probably maybe one of the, if not the most powerful magic army in the game. Lumineth Realm-Lords' magic supremacy starts from the one fact that they have probably the best caster in the whole game in Teclis, the Loremaster of Haish. Teclis himself is an amazing caster and pretty much can ignore your opponent's ability to dispel with his ability to either just choose to cast spells automatically that cannot be unbound or choose to cast them at higher casting levels. Not only this, but he also gives off auras thanks to his trusted companion Salinar, and also on top of that he has the ability to dispel every time your opponent casts, and also get some auto dispels in there as well. Back this up by the fact that nearly every Venari unit in Lumineth Realm-Lords is a wizard in some form, as well as the Cenari as well. You just have a wide range of wizards that can help you defeat your enemies. Unlike the previously mentioned Disciples of Tzeentch, a lot of Lumineth Realm-Lords magic is based on either making their troops better or debuffing your opponent's troops. They have some really good spells in their lore, particularly ones that can affect your opponent's ability to use command points, and you've also got ones that allow your army to move much quicker, sort of counteracting the fact that your army is potentially quite slow, which is, I know, weird for elves, but Lumineth Realm-Lords just have a whole arsenal of magical power on their side, and it's only going to get better when we get the new releases for them. Number 3, we have Legions of Nagash, and this is sort of going to blend into our next one as well, but we'll talk about this one first. And well, the main way that Legion of Nagash gains a lot of magical potential is through 2 of its named characters. You have the Grand Master of Death, Nagash himself, the God of Death in the Age of Sigmar Mortal Realms, and you also have his right-hand man, Arcan the Black. Both of these wizards are super powerful and just can lay down a harrowing amount of magical dominance on the table. What's great for them both is previously we've had the other two mentioned where Lumineth sort of seem to buff themselves more, Tzeentch seem to do a lot of mortal wound output, Legion and Nagash tend to do a lot of magic that makes your opponents worse. They do what's called debuffs, making your opponent suffer penalties to hit or take negatives to their bravery and a whole bunch of hosts like that. The idea as well is that you can start replenishing your troops, and you've got ways to do that either magically or in different ways as well, and you can really get a lot out of some rather less than favourable troops like skeleton warriors when you start pounding some of the potential spells on them. A personal favourite and a popular one among Legion and Nagash players is the favoured Necromancer, who has a really fun spell called Van Hell's Dance Macabre. What this does, it allows units to double pile in, which is really good. All of a sudden, when you realise the skeleton warriors are packing out an amazing amount of attacks, and it just brings them up to that weight of dice that they need to be at to really do some damage. Across the army, you've got good wizards, and you even have some monster wizards as well, besides Nagash and Arcane, like the Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. And you've even got the other Mortarchs, both Manfred and Neferata, who are also wizards as well. Legion of Nagash just has a wide pool of magic and has a lot of chaff and easy and cheap pointed troops that allow you to let them do what they do and just push your way across the table in a shambling tide of the undead. As mentioned, we're going to talk about an army that has a lot of its magical power come from the same source as the previously mentioned Legion and Nagash, and that is Ossiarch Bonereapers. Ossiarch Bonereapers get a lot of their magical power by the fact they can draw upon the two previously mentioned named characters from Legion and Nagash, Arcane the Black and Nagash, Supreme Lord of Undeath. Both these characters, you can pretty much take everything I've talked about in the previous Legion and Nagash thing and apply that to Ossiarch Bonereapers. But the one thing to note is maybe their support wizards are not quite as great in Ossiarch Bonereapers as they are in Legion Nagash. However, to counteract that, they also get access to some really powerful endless spells. What's great about Ossiarch Bonereapers' endless spells is that they are soul linked, meaning only the Ossiarch Bonereaper player controls them, and all of them have some really cool effects. Ossiarch Bonereaper magic generally tends to be a lot more buff heavy than some of the others, but they also have access to a wide variety of different spells across the board, and generally a bit more well-rounded than some of the previously mentioned armies. Ossiarch Bonereapers are a fun magic army, and like I said, for a lot of the points talking about the characters, you can simply take what I've said in the previous slide. Number 5, we have the Seraphon, who are a great magic army for one key reason, and that is access to the amazing Slain Mage Priest Frogman wizards and their associated named character, Lord Croak. Slain Mage Priests really are the key fundamental to this army being a great magic army, as they have board-wide efficiency on both dispelling and offense, which just makes them great in the game. They also have access, Seraphon, to a bunch of smaller wizards like the Oracle on Troglodon, which I guess is a lesser wizard because the Oracle is a tiny little skink, and you've got things like the Skink Star Seer and Star Priest. Seraphon can put out an amazing amount of magic and are really great at defense, but perhaps one thing that sets them apart from the pack is the fact they can take what's called bound endless spells. Much like the previously talked about soul-linked endless spells in Ossiarch Bonereapers, bound endless spells cannot be moved by your opponent, and in fact, Seraphon even have spells within their laws that allow them to soul bind and bind these endless spells to their own will, taking your opponent's ability to use their own endless spells and meaning you always get access to them. This is really cool and a really great mechanic, as it allows Seraphon to really exert their magical dominance on the table. Number 6, we have the Cities of Sigmar, and in particular one city more than anything else, and that is Hallowheart. Hallowheart is the Cities of Sigmar sub-faction that specializes in magic, and straight away it gives you an amazing bonus to all your nice little cheap heroes that are wizards and gives them an extra spell slot. This means that battle mages, sorceresses, and even the Stormcast Eternal models that you're allowed to take within your city's army, like the Knight Incantor and even the Lord Exorcist and Lord Arcanum, all get an extra spell. This is really fun, as it makes those cheaper wizards just able to do that much more on the table. The spell lore for this particular city is 6 spells instead of the normal 3 for a lot of the other city sub-factions, and this really helps and has a wide variety of different spells, allowing you to really get a spell for any occasion in the game. Add to this the fact that you have access to a lot of +1s to cast and +2s even in some cases, and also the fact that you've just got cheap wizards as previously mentioned. It can really make a magic dominant Cities of Sigmar army quite good on the tabletop. Add to this as well, again, you've got things that your army is also potentially immune to magic, where you can roll a dice and on a 5-up every time you're affected by a spell or mortal or endless spell, you can ignore the effects on a 5+. Now, what's great about this is you get to choose to ignore the effects, so you can make sure you always get your buffs off, but make sure you can always try and ignore debuffs and damage spells against you. This just makes Cities of Sigmar a really fun and interesting magical army to play. One thing to say about them though is they're much more an army that's throwing out all their might without ever really controlling it. The empowered endless spells effect you get with cities, meaning that all your endless spells are the empowered versions at all times, is really cool, but it can also come back to bite you in the butt, as your opponent does get to control some of them, like with the Seraphon and the Ossiarch Bonereapers previously mentioned, who can't have these things happen to them. Next up, number 7, we have the Skaven. Now, Skaven are very similar to Cities of Sigmar in their magical ways. The fact that they've got access to a bunch of decent wizards who, unlike Cities of Sigmar, are naturally 2-casters. They're also really cheap 2-casters as well. They've got access to loads of dual casters, from the different variations of Grey Seers to the bigger version of the Engineers, the Arch Warlock, and even a great little special character as well in there as Thankful and Bone Ripper. You also got the Vermin-Lords as well, who are big giant rat demons. Skaven make use of their magic in many different ways, but most of it is just getting a lot of spells off that your opponent can't stop them all. This is a really good aspect to Skaven's game, and they have a lot of potential for mortal wounds, not to mention access to some really powerful endless spells, none more fearsome and more, I guess, hated almost across the game than the Warp Lightning Vortex. It's worth mentioning that if you've picked up a Skaven Battle Tome and you're thinking of this army, please do go read the FAQ, as there are some significant changes to a lot of the spells and things that Skaven do, but Skaven still are a great magic army with their access to, as well as on top of all their wide variety of wizards, spells and stuff, they've got their terrain feature, which counts as arcane. You can put 3 pieces of arcane terrain that is also deadly to your opponents on the table edges, meaning that you can get your wizards bonuses to cast and set those gnaw holes up on the table really easily and really well to benefit you the most. And lucky last, number 8, we have the Gloomspite Gitz. Now, definitely not one of the most powerful magic armies out there, but you can make some really fun magic armies with Gloomspite Gitz. They have access to a bunch of really cheap wizards, some of which have the potential to be dual casters once per game, like the Fungoid Cave Shaman, and you also have powerful wizards in there like Scragrot the Loon King. What's great about Gloomspite Gitz is they have access to a bunch of great endless spells. I don't think any of their particular endless spells are bad in any way. They've also got some monster wizards in there, like the Web Spinner Shamans on Arachnarok Spiders. What's cool about Gloomspite Gitz is your spell laws are generally wide and varied as well. This means you have the potential to do damage, have some buffs and debuffs in your laws, and it gives you a wide pool to put on all your different types of wizards. Gloomspite Gitz, more than anything, magic-wise, when you're starting to think a Gloomspite Gitz heavy magic army, relies on endless spells and their ability to put loads of wizards out that you can just get so many casts off that your opponent can't stop everything. This is a fun way to play a magic army, and something definitely different, and sort of pushes more down this route than the previously 2 mentioned Cities of Sigmar and Skaven. Gloomspite Gitz the epitome of just putting out cheap wizards and getting loads and loads of casts off. You do have some access to a few different buffs to your casting, potentially with the Bad Moon hovering above your heads, which makes Scragrot a very important part to a magic heavy Gloomspite Gitz army, as he can control the Bad Moon somewhat. Well, we hope you enjoyed the video though. Thank you for watching, and if we've missed any great little magic armies, definitely leave them in the comments down below. Or perhaps you've got a cool little magic sub-faction somewhere in an army that we didn't touch on. Definitely leave those in the comments below as well. All of it's great for new players to find. Thank you all for watching though. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also, while you're at it, why don't you go join our Discord server down in the description of the video and come chat with us some more. While you're on YouTube as well, please do go check out my featured channel section. There's a bunch of other fantastic Warhammer Age of Sigmar content, ranging from battle reports, painting tutorials, tactical videos, and more besides. And lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who supports the channel via Patreon or YouTube members. Thank you to James, AJC, JC, Christian Weir, Philip Ward, Soren, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shot First, Chaos Spawn, and James Crowder. Thank you all so much for your support, and if you'd like to help support the channel like these fine people do, you can find a link to that down in the description of the video as well. Thank you all for watching though, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.